All right,
All right, let's
Max.
talk some magic.
Between the choice of Nicole Bolas, Liliana, Garrick, or Jace, you can only choose one. Which one do you choose?
Ooh, as a friend to be them.
Choice is yours. You can only pick one of them. Which one's it going to be?
Huh. Well, I would pick each of them for different reasons. I guess Jace.
Jace? All right. It's been far too long since I've added another pin to this jacket. It's been far too long since I've put
Excellent.
this on. But
Yes, it has.
this must mean it's time for Tibalt's Apprentice Luck of the Draw. Welcome, neophytes and Cenobites, to Tibalt's Apprentice Luck of the Draw. Far too long since we've done one of these. I have Jace joining me now. I'm not exactly sure where he's going to appear on the screen and stuff. I'm looking at him over there, and he's looking at me down here, and I'm filming up there. So this is going to be a unique episode. How you doing, Max?
Doing just fine. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good. It's been way too long since I've seen you, and way longer than that since we played. So
Yes, it's been a while.
it has. So today's topic's a simple one. I went for the clickbaity title of 5 things you never want to find out in the middle of a commander game. And I admit that's clickbait. And I don't really like clickbait myself. So I'm just going to tell you these are actually things that you probably want to discuss before the game starts. And that's really
Right.
what that is. So I've got 5 things on the list here. Um, and at this point, so pretty much we're all agreed that quitting at instant speed is the best way to go about it. Do you think?
I actually, well, in my particular play group, we have a rule that if you're going to scoop, you have to scoop at sorcery speed so that anything that might happen on someone else's turn still gets a chance to happen.
Gotcha. And I see I wrote that down incorrectly and said that incorrectly because yes, sorcery speed is what I'm looking for, not instant speed.
Yes.
It does seldom. Well, so it's gonna. Well, we'll get back to this point in a minute. Um, but I always think that that's a good idea when you sit down to talk to folks. My first question is, are we playing casual or competitive?
Right.
When you sit down with a new group, do you do that initially, or do you just kind of let it sit down and see how it goes?
Gauge the power level of the table. I'm like, hey, who are you guys commanders? Who are you guys playing? Do you mind if I play my 8.5 or 9 out of 10 Joyra, or would you rather I play like a 7, whatever, 6 or 7 on the power scale instead?
Gotcha. I have a little bit more difficult, complicated formula that I have to go through only because whatever the level of my deck is, I usually have to downgrade it because I'm playing it. So
Right.
that means that I don't really know what the power level of that deck is. So I have to figure that into it. But one of the other questions that comes up is proxies. What are your feelings on proxies?
Look it, I don't mind proxies. I have some. A lot of my friends have some, especially if it's a card. If it's like a really expensive card, like I mean, my friends and I, like, we're trying to pay rent and stuff. We're not going to go buy a Force of Will. We're not going to go buy, those cards that are insane. So within our play group, proxies are usually just fine. Even more so if it's a card you already have, you just don't want to get two of.
Right.
Yeah, proxies, I don't mind. And we proxy whole decks just to make sure we like the deck and see how it runs, even.
Gotcha. So I've changed my opinion on that back in the day because when I first started playing, proxies were a big no-no. Hated to see anybody
Right.
using them. Felt like somehow I was getting ripped off if you were playing with something like that. Back in the
Makes sense.
day, younger and less experienced, I'm thinking you're cheating if you're playing with those because you don't own those cards. And I've come a long way, and that the price of Magic has gone way up since
Oh
then.
yeah.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. These days, I don't care. I don't buy and sell and trade on a personal level, anyhow. So generally, that's not what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about getting ripped off there. I am
Right.
mildly concerned. I'm never concerned when I sit down to play with somebody, but I still tend to discount their win depending on how much of their deck is proxied. If you sit down with
That's
somebody and
fair. That's
80% of
fair.
their deck is proxies, I can make a fantasy deck that can beat
Uh,
everybody. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
anyone can proxy up a deck that's going to win 100% of the time.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
I think there's a difference between doing that and so my friends and I will go on Tapped Out and like brew a deck. Like for example, I have two in the works. I have Hepatra and Reese the Redeemed on Tapped Out, ready to go. I just need to go print them. But I do intend to buy all those cards and eventually make the deck. I want to proxy first to make sure that it runs properly.
Right,
There's a difference between doing that and just I'm just gonna like make a sliver deck that's gonna beat everybody.
right,
Like no
right.
matter what, turn 4 or turn
And
5,
even
whatever.
and even so, I'm more than happy to sit down at the table with anybody. And the
Oh yeah, of
proxies that
course.
I have in my deck is oftentimes it's maybe a flip card that I was just too lazy to get the other card to go with it.
That's
So I'll
fair.
write on an island, this is a jade amulet or this, or you know what I mean, something like that that's going to flip.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I think it's another valid question though to bring up before you actually start playing. I'm not one that's going to get salty, but sometimes other people are going to get salty during the game if they see that.
I've seen
Though
that happen.
I was going to say I haven't seen that happen too often recently, to where somebody really gets salty in a game. At least not on proxies. But usually it's sometimes I'll be in the middle of the game and I'll pull something and I'm like, oh, do you guys care? I've got a proxy here, and we're in the
Yeah,
middle
it's
of the
like, oh
game. What are
shoot,
you
I
going to do? You're going to say
literally just
no?
forgot that it was there.
Yeah.
I actually had a
So,
friend, my friend Tanner has an Atraxa deck, and he has a real copy of Atraxa, the card,
mhm,
but he also has this really, really cool, like, alternate art proxy. It's a proxy,
right.
and it's really, really cool to look at, but someone actually told him they didn't want him to use that deck because his commander was a proxy and it was, like, alternate art. We were like, dude, really? Like, he's got the real card. It's sitting over there in his box. Like, I don't know.
So,
Some
I mean,
people
this
just
is a
really are
good
against it,
thing,
I
and this is
guess.
why I'm bringing this up now, because I do think it's something that if you sit down at the beginning of the game, you can get that out of the way. And on a personal level, you maybe know not to play with that guy next time you see him in there,
Yeah, that's
if that's
fair.
the case. So, good thing to know. What I have here listed under number 3, and this is something you helped me with a little bit earlier when we started talking, was I often feel like it would be a good idea to address before you sit down to play what we're going to do about missed triggers.
Okay, right.
And you had a very good or simple explanation. I mean, you're training for a judge, or you're
So I've gone through all the judge training. The only thing I have left to do is you have to get endorsed by a level 2 judge, and I have to take the test for L1. But otherwise, I'm like basically quote unquote a level 1 judge,
nice.
just about.
So in that case, what
Um,
do you do with missed triggers?
so mistriggers are interesting because there are two cases. So one is if it's a May ability,
Right.
if you're in tournament setting at the very least, if you miss a trigger and it's a May ability, it's treated as if it's ignored. If you forget about it, that's unfortunate. It's not your opponent's job to remind you about your triggers. It's your own job to remember them. If they're nice enough to remind you, great. They're a nice person. It is not their job. For a must trigger, if you miss a must trigger, if it does not disrupt the game state, you are actually to go back to the point where that trigger was supposed to happen, have the trigger happen, and then continue from that point.
In that case, then how far do you go back?
I mean, not more than a turn, ideally.
Okay.
If it's a whole turn, even that's kind of really far. Definitely never more than a turn.
So
Um,
it's one of those
if it's
things
if it's
where
a
I've
couple of
got in
steps,
or
that's even
been
better.
playing with people in a situation where, oh, I was supposed to gain life these last 3 turns. I'm just going to go ahead and do
Right.
that. you know, it's a friendly game. You know what I mean? But and maybe this is just me.
I
Maybe
mean,
this is wrong. Maybe it isn't. But I mean, if I've agreed to that and you win, yeah, I still, you know, I still don't count that. Yeah, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's maybe,
yeah,
but you know, if it's a friendly game, it's a friendly game. It doesn't, you know, maybe it's not even going to affect the outcome. But generally
but it
speaking,
also
I
might.
like to approach it from the standpoint: if I missed a trigger, I may say something about it. I may be the person that said, "Oh man, I should have gained 3 life, you know, these past 3 turns." I'm not going to ask for it because I've said it out loud. I now hopefully am going to remember from this point on
The next time
the
that you're
next
supposed to
time, and
gain the
I'm not
three
going to
life,
let that
right?
happen again. Hopefully, that's the thing. But I do think
Yeah,
that's a good discussion to have before you sit down at the table and before the game starts, even. Really.
yeah, I agree. It's a good idea to do that. I mean, like Commander's a casual format. That's our format. But at the same time, if you were supposed to gain 9 life, that might end up tipping the game in your favor, even though you missed those triggers. Like,
Right. Right. Absolutely. What I have down here for number 4 is anybody got any infinite combos? Now, personally,
infinite
what are your feelings
combos.
on infinite combos?
I try not to include more than one per deck. Not even all my decks have them. My Joyra deck has one. Um, I forgot I had another deck that accidentally had one. Or it was like almost infinite, and I have a lot of people get upset with me. My brother actually got upset with me over the infinite combo that I have in Joyra. But it's like it requires like 4 or 5 cards. It's not like super easy to pull off. It requires a mana reducer, Sensei's Divining Top, Mystic Forge. I think Joyra herself has to be on the board, and like it requires all these different pieces in order
Right.
to actually be correct.
Right.
2 card infinite combos; those are a little,
My
those are
Wander
a
Ride
little
Profits,
less.
perhaps? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like them. I think they're really cool, but I think a lot of people don't agree. A lot of people are like, "Wow, really? You're just gonna infinite us out?" Like, I know a lot of people that really don't like them.
So that's an interesting point. So, and I like what you said that, you know, that your decks, and then maybe not all of them have one. I am at this point going to make an effort to go back through all my decks and put one in every deck. I'm not planning on using it
Yeah, I
every
think they're
time,
cool.
and I'm not putting like the 2 card combo or whatever to get that infinite in there. But I do feel that it's a valid thing to have in there. Now, somebody else, one of our core 4, Josh, has had this discussion also. I've had it with
Mhm.
Enrique and with Brian and stuff. Everybody has their different opinions on infinite combos, but while somebody maybe doesn't like the idea of an infinite combo, in my estimation, any combo by definition is going to deny the other person resources and eventually squeeze them out. It's going to get a stranglehold on them and shut them down in theory. Most of the combos, I mean, there's maybe
Right.
some that don't, but um, so I don't really have a problem with infinite combos. Now, if you're playing it every turn and that's your style and stuff, well, you know, maybe we need to go back and have
Yeah,
that
then that kind of gets
conversation
a little.
about whether we're playing competitive or not. But honestly, um, I like having the idea of having that in there because sometimes for me, just drawing that card, that last piece of the puzzle that I need, has been enough for me to enjoy the game. If I'm not getting what I want up to that point and I can pull that combo, or if everybody else is having a good time and I just pull that card and I know I have it in my hand, like that's enough for me just to sit there smugly and just go, you know, I could take the table out right now. But you know what? This is a new player. They're having a good time. I don't care. And if I go ahead and I lose and I get blasted out of the game first, you know, that's okay. And I keep it to
It
myself. I
is what
don't
it
brag
is.
like, oh, I could have got you. That doesn't matter. But just having that in there gives me, I want to say, a sense of security, just knowing that. And
Yeah.
also, I think that one of the reasons that I am going to go back and put those in my decks is because I do want to have, or at least know in the back of my mind, that I can shut down a game if I have to. There have been
Right.
times where I'm only going to get a limited number of plays in that night. You know what I mean? Like you said, we all work. We've got other jobs. We've got things that we have to do.
Exactly, and
And
games can go for hours
and
and
I'd
hours
rather
and
not spend
hours.
3 hours on one commander game, especially if it's not going my way. Now, I
Right.
mean, I could scoop. That's not in my nature, though. Either.
And
Not
even
so
so,
much.
like that's not part of the fun of the game, you
Right,
know? I
right.
mean, like if you
So
have to scoop, you have to scoop, but it's I'd rather not also.
I would
I'm
rather
with you on
play it
that.
out. I would rather take my lumps if that's what I have to do, or I would rather end the game
Exactly.
for everybody and let's get
And
another
then start
game
a new
in. And
one.
maybe I don't come out on top of that one. Maybe somebody else is going to win the next one. So I do
Yeah.
think they're valid. I do like having that conversation before the game starts, though, just to make sure that everybody else is on the same page. Um,
That makes sense.
I've got I've got a couple of decks that have combos in it. Like I said, Wander Rhyme Prophet. I've mentioned that a couple of times. I do love to get that off if I can, but I don't do it every time.
But
And
it's a
I'm
very
not
cool combo to
looking
watch.
to be a CEDH player, but I am looking to have fun. And it's been so long since we played. I really want to get these points out of the way before we sit down um, to have a game. You know what I mean? Because I really
Right.
want to have fun. And almost the more you want it, like the more pressure it puts on you.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
It
I don't
does
want to
feel like
try
that
having fun
sometimes.
so much that I blow the entire night. But I think by touching on these five things, you can kind of, you know what I mean, make it fun for everybody, or at least everybody can be on the same page. And if you're something that you don't want, then you could maybe find another table or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, or at the very least have the discussion with your friends and say, hey, like this is what's going on. I'm not really having a great time lately, whatever.
Right, right. Now, I did say five things, and I didn't really talk about that last one. Now, this brings us back around to quitting at sorcery speed, scooping at sorcery speed. I
Okay.
had a whole bit written out here about making the Klingon word for retreat was like attack, um, or I wanted to say I reserve the right to Voltorb. Um, I guess what I'm saying there is while I want to scoop at sorcery speed, I do want to have the option to make a suicidal play.
Well, yeah.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? I want to reserve the right to be able to bolus myself out of the game. I guess
Okay,
bolus
that's
would be
fair. So
happening.
go
Go
out on
ahead.
your own terms.
Go ahead.
Go out on your own terms.
Yes, go out on my own terms and stuff. An example of that, the best example I can think of, this happened some time back, and I've mentioned it on here before or whatever, but without getting into the specifics of it, four people at the table. The night hadn't particularly been going my way. I wasn't trying to be a spoil sport, but I'm in position, we'll say this is one, I'm two, three, number four. Player number four
Okay.
is just about to go out of the game. He's about to combo off, kill everybody at the table. And I had a pact of negation, but I only had 4 land. Now, this is deep in the game. Everybody else has between 7 and 10 land. I've only got 4. There's no way I could pay for that pact of negation. He puts the last piece of his combo down, and I pact of negation, and he flips out. Why would you do that? You can't pay for that. You're going to die. Well, if you
I
get
was
this
gonna die
piece off,
anyway.
I'm going to die anyhow. And I'm playing the long game. Okay, I sacrifice myself so that these two players can stay in the game, still go. They had fully developed board states. Um, they could continue playing. I get the reputation of a madman that you don't know what to expect. So who knows what he's gonna do? He could do anything. So I'm playing the long game there. You know what I mean? That was my idea. He was very upset about it. He eventually convinced me to roll it back and to let him do what he was going to do. Um, Ironically, he wasn't quite able to pull it off, and then wound up scooping during the next person's turn and leaving anyhow.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm like, I don't bring that up to put anybody else on the spot. Like it doesn't even matter who this is or where this happened. But what do you think about that? So you said you should have the right to do a suicide play if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, if you know that you're in a position where no matter what, you're not going to get far in this game, if you have the opportunity to do something like that, like a pact of negation, if it's going to save one or two other players at the table, why not?
Yeah. If nothing else, it's like I had a story. I mean, I still got a story to tell out of it,
Exactly.
but I had a story at that point. Then it's like, hey, remember when I? But anyhow, I'm not sure how to phrase that though. I don't
Yeah.
want to sit down at the table and say, hey guys, just so you know, I'm going to commit Harry Carry at any point. I guess you're not supposed to say that. What's the seppuku? What's sorry, that was
Yeah,
insensitive.
no, both are correct.
At any rate, you know what I mean. Yeah, bolus myself out. Whatever the case may be. I'm not sure how to bring that up in polite conversation, but the idea is,
There's actually um there's actually an episode of this show on YouTube, Game Nights,
yeah,
where one of the hosts knows he's gonna go out, but he does do that. He goes out on his own terms. He goes, you know what? I'm gonna ancient tomb myself to death.
right,
And I mean, like, I don't remember exactly how the episode went. I think it ended up helping other people the same way that
right, right. See, that's what I was thinking
communication
too.
was
It's
gonna
like,
help.
well, I'm going to help somebody else out. I'm going to help these guys out. Next time I play, maybe they're going to remember that. Maybe they'll cut me some slack on something like, oh, remember when you saved me that game so I could go on to win?
Yeah, I
And
mean, you never know.
yeah, you never know. So I was playing the long game. The other guy was playing the short game, and it turned out to be a really short game, like I said, because he bailed after that. So anyhow, so those are 5 things that I think you should mention before the game starts, just to help everybody out to make it so that everybody's on the same page. They at least know what to expect and to where to go from there.
Right.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to add, or anything else that you think should be discussed?
Off the top of my head, no. Just kind of, I mean, general etiquette for this game is, obviously always appreciated.
Right,
Especially when you're playing with new people.
right,
I think it's a good idea to say, hey, I'm sitting down with this Calimax deck.
right,
It has an infinite combo in it. It's really strong. How do you feel about that? Like, even, just letting people know that your deck is either really, really strong, or, hey, my deck's really not up to, it's not up to snuff with more competitive decks. I just want to let you know, like, my deck's not very strong. Is there anything that you can play that might be a little bit more even with my power level?
absolutely. And you bring up the idea too, and this is one of the things that has been an advantage for me, especially with doing this, doing Tibalt's Apprentice and so on, is I've started playing at other places. So me coming in
Mm-hmm.
as a new player, these are really easy for me to bring these things up, because it's like, hey,
Right.
never been here before with you guys. Just let me ask, are you guys doing infinite? Are you playing casual competitive? It's easy
Right,
to
right,
do
right.
that, but you did bring up the point earlier too. It might not be a bad idea to have this discussion or bring up these 5 points with your group that you're currently playing with, or that you've been
Yeah.
playing with for the last 5 or 10 years or whatever. You might find that maybe it gives somebody else a chance to bring up a problem or a question or something that maybe they've had in the meantime, or didn't
Mhm.
want to say, or maybe it'll open up a line of dialogue or discussion that you hadn't thought about, or they hadn't brought up, or hadn't had the ability or whatever to bring up. So
Right.
anyhow, I think that's our episode for today. I want to thank you very
All
much
right.
for joining us, and thank you, Max, for joining me. I want you to stick around because I got another
Thank you.
question that might turn into an episode a little bit later on, but we'll get to that in a second. For you folks, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you don't like what you see, hit that dislike button 2 times. If nothing else, definitely just hit the subscribe button. Come back and see what we're doing. We got a lot of new things planned for this coming year, and we look forward to seeing you here. So now, as another topic,
Okay.
how far will you go to win?
I mean, like, so I play generally with the same 3 or 4 people most of the time.
Uh-huh.
And we're all really close. Like, we're all friends outside of Magic. So, I'm not trying to step on anybody's feelings. I don't think I would go any further than maybe pulling off an infinite combo once in a while. Nothing crazy.
Okay. Would you let somebody miss a trigger that you knew could potentially save them? And I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, it's hard to answer for me. Like, from a judge's standpoint, I have to hope that they remember their triggers, and because it's not your opponent's job to remind you of your triggers. But
Right.
from a player's standpoint, I would. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I'm at the point now where I really don't need help in this game. But if someone was to offer it to me, I would be grateful for it. But I wouldn't expect someone to remind me of my own triggers. So I don't know. That's hard to answer.
Okay. Okay. Well, it was supposed to be. So, and it comes up not actually for the paper game of Magic. It comes up for something that I'm going to ask you or talk to you about in Arena. But I like what you said there because you're a judge or you're studying for that. You have that responsibility. I feel the same way for cheating as far as sleight of hand. I know how to do sleight
Oh
of hand.
yeah,
I can do sleight of hand with cards, etc. And for that reason, I am that much more vigilant about not doing it. Does that make sense? I mean, to some
right.
people, it might seem the
Yes.
opposite way. It might seem like, well, who cares? You know what I mean? You did a little thing there, and if they didn't cut you, well, that's their fault. But I don't think that way. I think that hey, cut me or don't if you don't, but make sure to give that option. And I never want to do or
Yeah.
use that because, but that's just me. Anyhow, the reason I've been thinking so much about this is I just become aware that there are plugins and things that help you on Arena. Do you play any
Like what?
Arena or no?
No, I haven't. I haven't. My computer's a piece of absolute garbage, so I haven't gone to check out Arena yet.
Okay, okay. Well, it's something that I play way too much Arena. Like when they gave me my stats for a couple of months ago or whatever, like I was in the top 5%, the top 1% of something else. Not that I'm winning that much, it's just that's how much I
Wow.
played. Like my numbers are like that high. I'm playing that much. It's almost like a part-time job, and you'd think I'd be way better at it than I am. Having said that, that's why I was so excited. I just got diamond again, like midway through the month, because I got diamond
Yeah, I
before, but
saw
I
that.
always
I was
got it at
like,
the end
wow,
of the month.
that's awesome.
I'm gonna get that mythic at some point, but there's problems with that because, like I said, it's a very salty environment from the standpoint of if your only incentive is there to
Right.
win, and that's what I've missed so much about not being able to go to the store. It's the gathering that I enjoy. It's playing with other people. It's meeting people like you and other people that I get to actually interact with and stuff. And I don't have to win every
Right.
single game.
Right.
On
Right.
Arena, I've got to win every single game. I don't, but I try.
Yeah. The 1v1, and you're just like, I need the wins. I need the wins. I need the
Exactly. And
wins.
I need those gold so I can get more cards. Anyhow, I found that there is software that will track your deck for you. So
Interesting.
it knows what cards you played, and it knows what cards are in your deck. It knows what cards you've played. It will tell you right there on the side what your percentages are of drawing said card, whatever's still in your deck. Lets you know how many are still there.
Okay.
Now my gut reaction is like,
So you can.
this is cheating, but
That's almost like counting cards in Vegas.
it is, which isn't technically illegal. It's only illegal because the casino doesn't want you to be able to do that. And that's what I started thinking about is like, well, you know what? If I was a smarter person, which I'm not, um, but if I was, I would already know these numbers in my head. I would be able to look at it and
Exactly.
think, now it's great that you can do that. And I don't, as far as I know, actually, you've studied as a judge, there's nothing wrong with taking notes, is there, in a game?
No, you're actually allowed, I believe, to bring like a small notepad or something that you can write. You're actually also allowed to use your phone as long as you're not using it to cheat.
Okay. Okay.
So you're
So
allowed a notepad.
so arguably, you know what I mean? If I had the math sense to do this, I brought it up to my wife. It's like, I just spent the past month because I've been in quarantine learning how to solve a Rubik's Cube. I can solve any
Oh, hey,
Rubik's
there you
Cube
go.
now as long as nobody's tampered with the stickers or something, I'm going to be able to do that now anytime I pick up a cube and see one. I may not do it in, less than maybe 3 minutes is what it takes me, or maybe 2 or 3 minutes to do it. But that's knowledge that's in my head. And is it cheating if I'm doing that? You know what I mean? So the same thing with these numbers.
No, I mean, no.
If I could look at it, and I know lots of people use this, but now I'm thinking to myself, how much further could I have been, or how much sooner could I have reached diamond if I'd had this knowledge. Now, it doesn't affect the game. It's just keeping track of stats and stuff. But it's been a dilemma. It's been something I've been kicking around. And that's what brought me up this question that I started thinking about is like, what is cheating? How far is cheating? How much influence? And if you don't need pen and paper to do this and you do it in your head, well, you're a better player. So where does that line go? How does that feel? I guess that's also comes down to how you feel about it too.
Well, like you mentioned with the sleight of hand thing, like that, obviously, like, if I remember correctly, the amount of cards in your hand, public knowledge to your opponent. So ask you, cards in hand.
Hold on
you
1 second. I'm going to ask you to
tell them, I
repeat
have
that
3 cards in hand.
because
If you do the
everything
sleight
froze
of
on me
hand
for
thing,
just 1 second. I didn't see you. So you started to say,
uh-oh.
as far as sleight of hand, you were talking about the amount of hands in card or cards in hand.
Okay, yeah. So the amount of cards in your hand is public knowledge to your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
If they say cards in hand, you have to tell them I have 3. I have 2. If you do the sleight of hand thing and like, I'm not sure what you mean exactly by that, but say you hide one of your cards behind another card and say, oh, 3, and it's really 4, and you have another card in your hand, that's cheating. That's
right.
Very much cheating.
Right.
But if it's like the deck stat thing where it's like I know exactly how many cards are in my deck and I know what percentage I have of drawing this card, then it's like, not really.
It's not influencing anything. So I've downloaded the app. I put it in Arena. I've like I said, I achieved Diamond before I got that. But now that I have it in there, I've played just a couple of games with it, and it told me more. The numbers I looked at, it had 2 effects. It's telling me a little bit more whether or not to keep playing the game because I can see I only have 2 answers that can answer this board state or this player, and I only have a 5% of drawing them. Do I want to spend the next 20 minutes playing this, or do I concede now and I go on to the next match? Because again, an arena is just about winning. The second thing, though, is it's made me look at and study and think about more my numbers and the redundancy in the deck. And I think by studying those numbers, I'm going to have, it will increase my overall innate skill to actually build a better deck because I now see how important redundancy is. Only having a 5% chance of drawing a counter spell or a board wipe, that's not enough
when you might need
for some of the decks that are out there. So it's definitely going to affect the way that I build a deck in the future. It isn't necessarily going to affect this game right now. So it's maybe just another tool, and it should be looked at that like that. You know what I mean? I think about this. I did some time ago. I talked about net decking and stuff way back when I did another channel even. And I talked about how vehemently opposed I was to net decking initially and stuff, and the idea about, oh, you didn't think of that combo. That's somebody else's. And then I took a step back and I'm like, but I bought Scry, I bought Duelist, I looked for all those things. The information is just there now. It's out there on the web. It's net decking. What's the difference between net decking and going to a book and reading a combo and then implementing it?
Yeah, there's none.
It's kind of the same thing. So anyhow, that was just another side topic and stuff that I wanted to get your opinion on and stuff. And I don't know whether I'll wrap that up in another episode or release it as a single or what. But regardless, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait for us to get a chance to play again.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I want you to come on with those new decks you were talking about too.
Yes, I'm gonna probably, as soon as I find out that Office Depot or wherever is open, I'm gonna see if they'll let me do it. Otherwise, Manhattan Beach Print Shop, which is right next to Hub, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna print up the proxies, make sure they work properly, and then work on really building those. The Restore Redeem deck is gonna be really, really stupid. So just be prepared for shenanigans.
All right. I missed that. You said
it'll be fun.
Redeemed? What was the one?
Yes, Reese the Redeemed. It's going to be ridiculous. Okay. So
nice.
Be prepared for shenanigans. Elf shenanigans.
I love shenanigans. Sweet. Thanks again for joining me. Thank you guys for actually taking the time to watch this, whatever it is, whether it be bonus content or another episode. Always like, comment, subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Help us out. Help us hit that next goal of 100 subs. It's a modest goal. You can help. Thanks. Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. I got plenty of editing and stuff to do now. I can stop
Oh,
playing
absolutely.
Arena for a minute.
Finally.
All right. Thanks a lot, Max.